Yes, family. Yes, that's what we want to do. We want to give ourselves that love and attention that we need. Self knowledge. Let's expound upon that real quickly before we get into our studies for the day. Self knowledge, self love, and empowering ourselves to be the greatest that we can be in this hard during this hard experience, unfortunate, impressed upon us. So basically, the most important, in this matter of fact, in this world that we're in, things get pretty much, how do I want to say it? We get placed into confusion and we get our attentions, well, all of our attention has been taken off of our inner self and off ourselves, and we have to place it on the world outside of ourselves that is much of an influence upon everything for us. And this has been a vicious cycle for some time in our lives. Um, One thing to help you become in tune with yourself is to, like I said, go back to the purest form of who you are. And that is a time at birth or a time when you was a baby. But we know that it actually starts way before that. Remembering, putting back together yourself. Because you were perfect when you came into this world. You was untouched. You were pure. So it's important to start there and get an old baby picture of yourself and really stare at it and really look at it and begin to speak in your mind that you do remember that person you were before the world tainted you. And that then you have to begin to make a promise with yourself about how you are no longer going to allow this world to rule you, that you're going to remember your soul. You're going to put it back together so you can be whole again, so you can be that higher self and the best self. Also, as I've spoke upon many, many times before, the two worlds, the material world and our real world, where we were in the material, but we also had the spiritual. And the spiritual was more dominant than the material. And that gave us um, the ability to be more. Now, because our material is so dominant in our minds, the material has dominated our minds as well. So basically, what we have to do now is, since the material has dominated our minds more, and we come from a world where there was no killing people, there were no prisons, there was none of this. Pretty much what they say is heaven, but we know that heaven is within us. It's not a place outside of us yet. So therefore, we have to take it what we have within us, because we do have a barometer. And us having that barometer is why we have to see the light. Like I said, the light is within you all this time. You just have to tap into that light. And you have to want that light. You have to think opposite of everything outside of yourself. Because, like I said, the material world has become dominant in the mind. And at this time, the mind is supposed to be strong and overcome this materialism that we have to endure, that we are experiencing. So it's critical for you to know that although we're in a world of great influence upon the material, you hold the knowledge and the light, and you need to seek it from within yourself. That means, like I was saying yesterday, in our experience, in our walk down the paths that we choose, we must always be cautious of self, conscious, aware of the self. And the self having to experience that way, when we're in tuned with self and in tuned to our experience that we're actually having, our minds can be strong in the decisions that we make with dealing with the things outside of us that are not real, that are illusions. We can act and work accordingly. So you are actually the truth. You are actually the true knowledge. A lot of times when we think about relationships and stuff with other people, we should know if we are ready to engage in relationships, certain relationships, and if we're not. We should never force ourselves to be in a relationship that we don't think, you know, that we feel some kind of way about. You should never force yourself, because at that time you may not be ready for that relationship. It may be some work that you just have to do with yourself, within yourself, before you even think about engaging in any kind of relationship. And definitely do our self reflecting, because in self reflecting, it just helps you to be the best being on the planet that you can be. That's just a mechanism that actually assists us. It's like I said, it's so much noise outside of us that it's so difficult to hear what really counts, you know, the important stuff. And this world has wiped away those things that can, uh, that was a life force for us. Because, this is why I think they won't give us reparations, even though I don't think reparations would help in this system. But I do see, kind of in the middle, I do see where it could help. I can see that if we were in our right minds, our people were in their right minds, which means more in tune with themselves spiritually versus just, and that what I mean by more in tune with yourself spiritually is you follow the principles of nature, not of a being that is created to be human like, with human needs, but really be in tune to those uh, principles that will connect you with nature, and that balance will allow you to be balanced and not just all over the place. So I'm going to get into the reading. But before I get into the reading, um, as we know, there's a lot of chaotic things happening. And confusion, the Bible tells us that the confusion is made, is there to conflict us, it's like a challenge for us in a way, for the mind. And this will also let us know if we're in tune with self, or are we listening? Are we listening to the world within us, or are we listening to a world outside of us? Because the world outside of us got us conflicted and confused. But the world inside of you holds the truth to everything that is going on around you. And it says it can't be trusted. Nothing can be trusted around you that is happening, because it's a strong falsehood that's going on. And it's going on because you have the ability to rise way beyond all of this nonsense that's happening around you. Because, like I said before, historically, you have a barometer. You have the fire. You have the fire. So you have a barometer within you that keeps you balanced naturally. Naturally. And this world wants you unstable so you can come back and stay here, come back and make these same mistakes over again and continue to be imbalanced. But that's part of why repairing you must not happen. They don't want to repair you. As you know, the fake Native Americans are doing what? They are not, definitely not doing spiritual stuff. It's not benefiting them. They're not, they're alcoholics, they're in the gambling casinos. They are of this world. They have become of this world, and their skin gets paler and paler as time goes on. So, um, when you and they have all kinds of drama and troubles. I was just looking at one YouTube channel that was talking about a Caucasian doctor who went to work on this reservation, and he ended up molesting a large majority of the children there. So, this is we know that that in itself, these when these things happen to people, it it causes trauma, and it causes for the spirit. It really kills it. It really kills it. So we have to fight to uh, through life and um, try to when these things happen, it's just devastating. So the fight through life makes it more challenging to reach your true potential of your spiritual part of you, and because it has forced you to that you're talking about a dominant material world has just forced itself to be your reality. It has forced that upon you, and in ways in your mind you think that that experience defines who you are in this experience, in this life, but it really doesn't. It really doesn't. But this is what these people who have taken our ancient over our ancient ways and stuff, this is what they have to endure now. This is what they go through. And of course, you know, um, ours never stopped. Our journey in the material world is what it is, and this is the true reason why they keep us in the condition, just like they keep, you see the fake Indians, they're in a bad condition. If you can be cut off from your true spiritual self and not be able to regain it back, that's all the better for the beings of this world, of this material world, because they're benefiting. They're benefiting on a constant basis. But so can you. You can still benefit on a constant basis because it really doesn't make a difference. Because what they're dealing with is a falsehood, it's an illusion. Well, what you deal with, only your mind can tell you which choice do you decide. Do you decide to make the material world your reality? And if so, I'm talking about material, making it your reality without the other half of you, which is the higher self, your spiritual world, your spirituality. your true spirituality. Because true spirituality is your body, is you, is your being in this existence. And you have every right to riches, to freedom. Because when you think about it, can somebody give you your rights? Can somebody take your rights away? Can somebody give you freedom? Can somebody take freedom away? No, it's a mind thing. No one can do these things. Hold on, family. I'll be back. I am I'm going to do this. I'm going to play some music real quick and I'll come back.
The Zaxby's Family Pack with your choice of 20 fingers or 30 boneless wings, only at Zaxby's. Let me be a woman, 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 woman. I can be a woman, 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 woman. Let me be a woman, 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 woman. I can be a woman, 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 woman. What you need? She gives tender, come here, Papa, plant your seed. She can grow it from her womb, family. Provide loving, overlooked and unappreciated. You see, you can reciprocate. I got delicious taste. You need a woman's touch in your place. Just protect her and keep her safe. Baby, worship my hips and waist. So feminine with grace. I touch your soul when you hear me say, boy, let me be a woman. Let me be a woman. Woman, woman, woman. I can be a woman.
All right, family, I'm back. Sorry about that. So basically, I forgot where I was at on this discussion. Oh, how they don't want us to be able to get into our true spirituality. They don't want us to rebuild and be able to build, um, or be whole again, or be righteous. They definitely don't want you righteous. So I think our focus is in the wrong places. We shouldn't be worried about their justice system because we have our own justice over here. We're two different worlds, and I keep trying to tell our people this. We shouldn't subscribe or strive to be of their world. We just shouldn't do that. Our world, we have to recreate for ourselves. I'm not saying stick to the historical because that's done and gone. That's done and gone. We are new people. We have to start anew. We can't go back to being Indians and cowboys or African tribal people. But we're great. You are great. We can be great just where we're at. And like I said, abundance is something that is ours naturally. We should live in abundance naturally. Um, so we our focus and energy should be in recreating a new world and moving away because we gave them 500 years of rulership. 500 years of rulership has been horrible on this planet. and it hasn't benefited anyone but the ones who call themselves supreme, quote unquote supreme. See, and but we haven't seen supremacy. We haven't seen anything supreme. This is not supreme. It may be supreme on a lower level. Maybe I guess you can be the crappiest supreme. You can be the dirtiest supreme, or the most supreme degenerate. You can be the most supreme degenerate. So maybe, possibly, that is it. Maybe that's it. So that just means that we need to lift our little selves up and move to this world over here where we can be great, and not deal with degenerate supreme, you know, but deal with greatness, building people, pushing out people who are going to be, you know, highly um, how do I say, high in energy, or just know the ways and walk in the way that is going to always breathe life, always breathe life, and not death. So let's get into the book. Let's get into the book. Let me make this comfortable because I gotta be reading here. Comfortable. Okay. All right. Here we go. We left off on, I think it was Sunday, wasn't it? Maybe it was. All right. Let's get started. Okay. Chuck, poor Chuck. He really wants it working late on a Sunday. Night, alone in the office. Nary a critter underfoot, except for his scurrying ambition. Has a bottle of soda pop to his left, a pile of notebooks to his right. In front of him, his words, pulled from himself with a struggle. They cling to his person like leeches. The words pile up the more he works on it. Right now, they only make sense to him. Time will vindicate this time. Something his wife, Marcy, would hear sometimes in the middle of the night, out of her husband's sleeping lips. It's hard to work at home. It's why he's here. Marcy's aimless chores, rubbing rags against surfaces, holding glasses up to the kitchen light, all to some insufferable humdity, distract him. He needs to work on his monograph. So he comes to the pit, understanding patterns of escalators used in department stores simultaneously equipped with the elevators, the heft of the theme. He can barely stand it, sometimes being of delicate sensibilities. Saturday afternoons find Chuck on stakeout. For the last 6 months of his life, every Saturday, he goes to Freely's and watches the Astari roll through the front doors, rumble and mix into first floor. Ladies' cosmetics, the men's store, jewelry, In the gallery of deluxe pleasures, perfume bottles ridged with jet plane speed, lines curvilinear, pink, and aqua automatic toast where all the options are set from above by men in secret rooms on the top floor. There is still one elemental choice left to be made: elevator or escalator. Chuck vehemently disagrees with esteemed Cur- Curver, who thinks the choice is random, a simple matter of proximity. As they ricochet from bauble to bauble, snared, snared by this sparkle, seduced by the luster, the shoppers opt for the vertical convenience at hand. Whatever is convenient, which doesn't suit Chuck, he relies on primary sources. 10 cents one a session. When Otis Elevator Company unveiled the world's first escalator at the 1900 Paris Exposition, the sign at the front of the Golden Gates read 10 cents one a session. Could it be any clearer than that? This need to rise, this need to rise is biological, transcending the vague physics of department store architecture. We choose the escalator. We choose the elevator. And these choices say much about who we are, says Chuck. There is more than a smidgen of spite in this formulation. Unseen by driven Chuck, he's trying to justify his specialty. Do you wish to ascend at an angle, surveying the world? You are leaving below and beyond, behind. A spirit arms wide, a sky's king. Or do you prefer the box, the coffin that exercises the journey heavenward? Presto, your arrival as magicians, but now theatrics. Whenever Chuck touches these black rubber of the escalator guardrail, such a mysterious substance, what alchemy, he understands he has made a choice, the right one. He works late in the office, as he is now, contorting and torturing his data to support his thesis. His bladder, always his bladder, he eases his fingers from the typewriter keys. His desk lamp provides an intrepid cone of light. All darkness outside the circle. Chuck cannot see the huge map of the city that drapes one wall of the pit, punctured here and there with motley colored pins, marking the department's holy war against defective, cagey, and otherwise recal- recalcitrant vertical convenience. In this bitter metropolis, cannot see the silent locus of office interaction, the water cooler, its cool fortitude. He walks past the rows of black binders filled with the city's hieroglyphics. Elevator, elevator regulations. The code book of their mission through disorder, and he stubs his toe more than once. Beset by unseen enemies, Out in the hallway, his passage is easier. Paradoxically, his bladder pains more the closer he gets to the bathroom. Always because Chief Inspector Hardwick is in his office. Whiteness throbs behind the opaque glass, and he hears grunting. Hardwick shouldn't be here this late, but then liquor stores aren't open on Sunday. And perhaps he needed to retrieve a bottle of whiskey from his office stash. This is a tense moment for Chuck. He needs to wee wee, but his natural affability and late night yearning for company tells him to say hello. Hello. Well, I don't say that word no more. Hardwick is monosyllabic. He's monosyllabic. And their greeting shouldn't last for too long. Chuck makes a promise of flowers, a box of candy, and no more soda to his bladder, and knocks on the door. He takes the grunt as a welcome and steps inside. The man is not Hardwick. The man is squat, fat, and has a few greasy strands of black hair stroked across his denuded pate. pate. Even from the doorway, Chuck can see ashing on his shoulders, sloughed off from his remaining hair. The man doesn't seem to mind Chuck's appraisal. He's eating a large submarine sandwich like a watermelon, chewing outward to his mitts, and a generous stack of folders that apparently have been keeping him busy. You must be Charles Gold, he says through ground salami. It says in your file you like to come in on Sundays. What are you doing in Hardwick's office? Chuck asks in return, wearily. The man withdraws a leather billfold from his jacket and flips it open. Bart Arbogast, Internal Affairs, he says. I'm working on the Fanny Briggs case. Chuck hasn't heard from Lily Mae since their encounter in O'Connor's bathroom. When you gotta go, insists his bladder. And he calls the angry scuttlebutt of his comrades, that uppity biatch, was bound to mess up sooner or later. They've handed the election over to Shancray. Chuck tried to call her yesterday, but when the operator put the call through to the public phone in the hallway outside her room, no one answered, not even one of her strange neighbors. No Caribbean lilt to tell him Miss Watson does not answer her door. I'm sorry to disturb you, then Chuck tells the IA man, his hand on the doorknob. Not so fast. Arbogast says, sucking up a sliver of onion into his mouth like a cat devouring a mouse. You're afraid of this Watson character, yes? Friends can be hard to come by in this department. I understand that you're trying to say, Arbogast nods. Gold, that's a Jewish name, right? Yes, what of it? And you're an escalator head, huh? Yes, that's my area of expertise. I think it's important to have a specialty, something you're good at all that way. Speaking of that, I want to stop there and get in another discussion. In the ways economically as a community, is I've seen this in many other communities, is that they have like each person has a specialty, something they're good at, or a and then we come together and then we can bargain, we can barter, do things like that, work together, build together, just like the Amish people do. You know, if we can build a model for our community, then we can give ourselves reparations. We can give ourselves that repair that we need, and you know, you know, feed ourselves what we need in this life. It's our existence, and it's our spirituality. It's no that self knowledge is very critical. That's the thing that if anything we should get is that. That's more important than anything than gold. Even the gold itself, even though gold is natural to the earth and it's something that's given by the sun. The sun makes the gold for us on earth. So that's just some things to think about when it comes to economics. Just like those damn escalators, you just go on and on. Arbogast sticks a fingernail into his gums. To be honest, I don't care much of you tread jockeys. Why don't you just start your own guild instead of trying to weasel in with the elevator boys? It complicates things. All this interdepartmental paperwork, you guys. Ooh, let me grab my drink real quick. Ah, getting choked up and tried. Instead of trying to weasel in with the elevator boys, complicates things. All the interdepartmental paperwork you guys cause. If the higher ups would recognize that escalators are just as important for speedy conveyance as elevators, there wouldn't be such headaches all the time. Arbogast inspects the soft brown matter beneath his fingernail and eats it. At least you guys stay out of trouble. Arbogast says mostly, I was just looking at your file. Seems you had a little incident at Freely's a few months back. Something about harassing the clientele. That was blown all out of proportion. Chuck says quickly, I was merely trying to ask the woman what made her walk out of her way towards the elevator bank when there was an escalator right there. And she told the store dick that I was bothering her. Tell me, if you think this makes sense, there's big QA for the elevator. She could see that clearly from her vantage point, and yet she rejects the escalator, which was nearly empty. She, Roland's bones, you escalator boys got a snappy answer for everything, don't you? Tiny red freckles of expiration emerge in Chuck's cheeks. Is this an official interrogation or can I leave? You can leave anytime you want, Arbogast grants. rubbing his lips with his sleeves. But if you want to help your friend, you might think about helping me out with some things that are bothering me. He waves his sandwich, no wither, no wither. Want to have a seat a few yards away down the hall for giving porcelain. Chuck pulls a chair from the wall and he sets it opposite Arbogast. The things he does for friendship. Arbogast looks over his notes. Last Friday, he begins. There's an accident at the Fanny Briggs building, 18 deep elevator stack. State of the art. City's pumped millions into the building. It's the mayor's big baby. This little, this Lila Mae Watson of yours inspects it, gives it clean bill of health. Are you with me? You haven't told me anything new yet. It's lip it's lip like that gives you guys your reputation. So why give the assignment to Watson? She's got a clean record, impeccable in fact. But it's pretty plum Fanny Briggs, excuse me, something Shankray would probably give to one of his toadies for good service. Why her is what I'm asking. Like you said, she does good work. Chuck says, crossing his legs, she deserved it. Deserves got nothing to do with it, Arbogast grunts. Of one of the stack crashes coincidentally, coincidentally, just as the mayor is about to take a test drive that makes it high profile mess up. If you wanted someone to take a fall, you couldn't have planned it better. Perhaps Chuck concedes this IAB guy is starting to seem. Okay, we're going to stop it there and we're going to start it because I'm going to leave it like a soap opera to be concluded. What's going to happen next? So the saga is getting hot and spicy because they're actually, well, it doesn't seem like they're getting anywhere as far as the investigation yet because we haven't figured out if it was, hey, sunken wind. We haven't figured out if it's the Imperious that went behind and did something faulty. Because, like he said, Lila Mae, first Black woman inspector, elevator inspector, uh, they gave her a building. She has an impeccable work ethics. So she's never had a problem like this before. But they put her on a high profile job that the mayor was going to take a test drive on. And so this is, we'll find out. May not, we can't make no conclusions because we don't know. Things usually go kind of a different turn. We never know what turn this is going to take. Who's going to be at fault? What is really going on? That's what we need to find out. So, family, we're going to start on the Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa. And I'm going to try to get through a little bit more than what I did last week. I mean, the other day, because we weren't able to give any justice to the story. Okay. Remember, we came into the chapter 2 of Mansa Musa, and this is when Mansa Musa comes to the throne. He has given the throne over, as we know, a relative of his, because he's a descendant, right? Put him in charge and went on a voyage and never came back. So we don't know what happened there. He could have went to Europe, or he could have went to the Great Americas here. But we would never know that because they don't know that. Okay. So customary for all who were present to beat their chest as if they themselves were the ones with the cold. By displaying complete solidarity with their sovereign, the people showed that if their leader suffered, they suffered as well. Mansa Musa was also always surrounded by a bodyguard unit, which was composed of his own personal slaves. Yes, Mansa Musa had slaves, but it is important. Well, we're speaking in English terms, so we know that it wasn't, he had servants. We know that us getting the knowledge of our physical selves is always going to be misconstrued to be like the world that we're in now, but it's not anything. When they go back into when they try to interpret the things of our past, it's always going to be demented interpretation. It's not going to be always, it's going to be um, not a good interpretation, period. Okay, we'll just say it like that. Okay. So Mansa Musa was always surrounded by bodyguard units, which was composed of his own personal servants. Yes, Mansa Musa had servants, but it is important to note that the servants in his realm and in many other parts of Africa was much different than how it came to be practiced in other parts of the world. Of course. Well, this is a hard book to really get through. I'm just saying, because it's written by not our own, evidently. This is the rest on the page, but it might just be a historical piece of literature. Just something put down, and I don't know how they did it, but whatever. Okay. So, you know, Mali was also clearly different than how it would be later manifest in the transatlantic. Okay, yeah. We don't need to be told all that because we know all of this is just not the same at all. The terminology, because English hasn't been around but less than 500 years. The English we speak, at least the English we speak over here in America hasn't been around that long. I want to say, let me look and see. I may not get a little bit more. Okay, here it says, so Enochian is a Enochian, and this is where they get English from. This is where they get our language from. that we speak. John Dee and his co was Squire, who worked with Dee in the magical investigation. Okay, but let me see. So Enochian was changed to English. That's what I want to say. Because I'm trying to figure out about the English language here. You know what I'm asking, hopefully. So the English began in the late 15th century with the so modern English has spread around the world since 17th century, but this modern English began in the 15th century. So basically, I guess I'm about right. It hasn't been around very long at all. 15th century, I would think more like the 17th century, but yeah, about more like, or it has to be the 17th century. Let's just say that. Because it was pretty young in the 15th century. It was pretty young and not yet spread out amongst everybody. So the interpretations of a lot of things is new, but a lot the things they interpret is older. So you got to think, what are we going to go with? We're going to go with the illusionary language that we have to deal with, or are we going to deal with the thing, the way the people's minds worked at that time? Which, like I said, we hold a lot of that information within us. You are the true light. Um, you hold the information, but if you pull it from outside of you, you are gaining inflammation. So be careful, family. To be clear, the concept of owning another human being is wrong in all of its forms. Being that we were spiritual people, which means just simply means that we were in tune to self and the oh, the magnificence. This is what I'm going to call planet Earth, the cosmology, cosmos, and the dimensions. I'm just going to use that word to describe everything. And I didn't forgot what word I used. Don't laugh at me, family. I didn't forget what word I just set up here and said. I gotta record. I gotta not record, but I got to go back and hear myself say it. So I didn't already forgot about the word. That's not good. Or did I say spectacular? That's what we'll call it. Okay. So they said the nature of servants in Mali was also clearly different than how it would later manifest in the transatlantic slave trade or even the Arab slave trade. Both Europeans and Arabs tended to dehumanize their slaves. The Europeans and Arabs are all one people. So basically, because they lack in the spirituality, in connection, in cut and the connection. They uh, dehumanized us because they saw that we were very spiritual people, in tune to the planet, and very powerful people. We had abundance then. We had beautiful roads and beautiful townships and buildings and all kinds of things. And this right here is the problem. So it makes our skin the problem because they recognize that we are whole, powerful, spiritual people. So that's a problem for them. Both, like I said, Europeans and Arabs tended to dehumanize their slaves, whereas indigenous slavery in West Africa was viewed as more of a temporary social class distinction. So they had more balance in their operation than the Europeans and Arabs, who were well known at that time to be barbaric and warlike beings. And we weren't like that. We weren't like that until the Europeans went and colonized certain areas in Africa. And then the tribes started fighting against each other, just much like in America. You had the things going on where they were coming between, to have people fight each other while they were stealing stuff, taking stuff, and taking advantage of. When I think about them calling it the land of the milk and honey, when I think about them calling it the land of milk and honey, that just tells me that's something that's not healthy for me. So I didn't really need the land of milk and honey because that right now there spiritually should wake you up and let you know that where's this milk coming from? And honeybees, I'm getting honey from the bees. I'm not getting milk from my mom. I'm getting milk from a cow, from an animal. So basically, I'm pulling from the animal world and putting their DNA inside of me. How barbaric. But that's the land of the milk and honey. Okay. Having said that, servants had much greater chance of rising above their lowly station. See, it wasn't a permanent, servitude was not permanent in Africa. It was just temporary. And then you moved on from there. Then you moved on from there. Okay. Mansa Sakura, despite his former status of being a servant, Mansa Sakura rose to the top rung of Malian society. See, he even Mansa Sakura, what they're saying is he was a servant. He was what we call today slave, but what they call a servant, which is the proper terminology. He was a servant because they didn't force people to serve them. It was a status thing. So Mansa Sakura was a servant. Then he made his way up the ranks to become a top rung Malian society. He rose to the top. As long as he performed as an able and competent leader, which he apparently did, no one had any qualms with his previous conditions. It is said that the Mali Empire, in fact, had an official prohibition on any mistreatment of both enemy combatants or slave for any reason. This does not mean that slaves were never mistreated. On some occasions, they most likely were. There are always mean and cruel people in the world who desire to treat others badly. If they are given the opportunity, but the official stance of the kingdom was to treat slaves in what was deemed to be a fair manner. All right. I was going to read more, but I think I'm going to stop it there. Woo, family, I'm just exhausted now. I'm exhausted. Let's call it a day. Let me see what else I'm gonna play for you guys. I've already did. I got the power. How about? Oh,
What makes a Wawa hoagie a hoagie? Is it the fresh roll, the savory deli meats, the fresh mozzarella, or is it getting it made just the way I like? Yeah, it's all of that. I knew it. Now add fresh mozzarella to any hoagie. Gotta have a Wawa. Lose weight fast! Unfortunately, when you do that, you often gain it back even faster. Why not try something more sustainable? Join the all-new WW Personal Points program for a 100% personalized weight loss plan designed for you.
We're already there.
Party people.
Hey. Ooh, I'm sorry.
Party people. Then you'll get funky. So Sonic for the school, you'll get funky. The simulation, then you'll get funky. Yeah, just hit me. Just get them up and hit me. Just get on down and hit me. That bot just get so funky now, hit me. Yeah, just hit me. Time to chase your dreams about the seats. Make your body scream. So slide. Get down. Let your soul lead the way. Shake it down. Go, ladies. It's a living dream. Love like this. Come play the game. The world is free. Do what you want, but free. We are the place where the nights are hot. It is a house of both females and males. For nothing's dope. The DJ plays your favorite blast. Takes it back to the past. Music loose. Bump, bump, bump. Get bump with some blast. The soul sonic voice, the big power. And MC Glow, we emphasize the show. We got ego. Make this your night. It's living right in my day. As the people say, live it on show. So work all day. I want is free. Be what you be to be. Yo, where the nights are hot, where nature's children dance, and say the chant on this mother earth, which is our rock. Time has come and what the soul, so you really got soul. Are you ready? Bump, 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 get bump, now let's go. House. You got the body rock and push. Everybody just rock it, don't stop it. You gotta rock it, don't stop. Keep ticking and talking, working all around the clock. Everybody keep rocking and rocking and shocking and rocking. Go house, everybody say rock it, don't stop it. Rockin', if it rests to me. L-O-V-E. The soul sonic. Gotta rock and pop it, 'cause in the century there is such a place that creates such a melody. A motherland of a master jam. Get up and dance, time to chase your dreams. I'm about to see, make your body sway. Socialize, get down, let your soul lead the way. Shake it down, go ladies. It's a living dream. Love, life, live. It's the short shot.
Twist and turn, your body rock.
So twist and turn. Let your body go. You got the body rock and pop, bounce and bounce. So hit me.
Hey,
Just taste the funk and hit me.
hey.
Just get on down and hit me. And pop, just get some funky now hit me. Other piece of the world. Spread the message of my world. Men, women, boys and girls. Hey, I'm planning popping, so work it on it. You got the groove. Move, shadow, shot, feel the groove.
All right,
Feel it,
family.
do what you want,
I'm
but
just
you
gonna
know you
leave
got
it
to
with
move
that.
and work it. Out on the floor, go down, bring it low. Hustle the ground, everybody just rock it, don't stop it. You gotta rock it, don't stop. Keep ticking and talking, working all around the clock. Everybody just rock it, don't stop it. You gotta rock it, don't stop. Keep ticking.
Keep ticking and talking, working all around the clock. Hey, this is what we're gonna do, family. Okay. You change your reality by rewriting your past and what you accept. But we know, before I start on the next one, but we know that the future, the present, and the past are all one. So what are we doing? Our ancestors, they're still amongst us. Actually, the person that we're going to become in the next life is with us as well. So that means that it's all starts now. The change starts now. So that means we're changing our past by how we make the present. So also, what you accept as true, you create your reality. Will create your reality. So don't buy into any of this stuff that those who have hindered us and that are our nemesis, our preventers of our greatness. They want to prevent us from reaching our highest heights and our greatness. Don't allow them to write your narrative. We have to accept the light within us as our true truth, as our truth. We have to listen to it. Everything outside of us is put here to hinder us, stop us like a video game. It's like we live in one big video game when you think about it. You know what your destiny is. Don't let anything stop you. May the force be with you, family. With that said, true love, higher self within, the soul. Always remember, we're still seeking or trying to bring the peace that's within on outside of us. Till next time, family.